So excited for this conversation. First of all, just thank you so much for doing this with me.
Of course. I'm so pumped.
To give everybody a little bit of a background, and this may sound like quite a bit of a reach for some people, but I feel like you'll probably agree with this. In a lot of ways, this moment right now, this conversation that we're about to have, started forming about 24 years ago. And what I mean by that is you and I were indirectly connected when I was 14, and I became friends with the man who would later become your husband.
So
And to
wild.
give a little bit more detail and context into that, Ian and I grew up in the same small little beach town on Oahu. We went to high school together, and as a freshman, I was brand new, and Ian had been there for much longer than me. He had a big group of friends. I had a ton of fear of being at a new school. And the way that our high school was set up was that we had the same homeroom class. It was a college prep school, so we didn't have very many like similar classes, but homeroom, we had the same class all 4 years of high school, and Ian was in my homeroom. And so we just instantly became friends and buds. And I just felt such a deep connection to him because he was so welcoming and funny and charismatic and just kind. And so even though we had slightly different friend groups, we had this class together, once a week for 4 years. And so we built this like really special bond. And then, of course, as life happens, went away to college. And I would love to hear, of course, your story of how you met him. And we drifted, we parted. We would see each other here and there when we would come home. And so we weren't as close as we were back then. But I just have such a beautiful, soft spot in my heart for him. And, because of that, to you as well, even though you and I haven't necessarily had a ton of interactions or conversations or connections, but I just feel this very deep bond towards you. And I wanted to share a little bit of that before we really dive into so many of the places that I'm really excited to go.
Oh man, I love that. And it makes me just miss him so much. Like that the kindness and just how he made everyone feel so welcome. And I remember him telling, your name has definitely come up over the years just by like, oh, like my friend Diera, this or that, and just through the community in Hawaii. So same, like I feel like I've known you indirectly through him and through the whole just Hawaiian ohana that we've formed. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And to share, before I kind of touch on so many of the things that like the places that you've evolved to and the work that you do now and just the incredible transformation that I've witnessed from afar that you've walked, just the path that you've walked so beautifully. Before we get to all of that, just to provide maybe a little bit more background for anybody listening that's not familiar with your story, anything and everything that you want to share that is kind of like will help give a little bit more detail into what we're referring to.
Totally. All right. I'll try to do the Cliff Notes version because I know we have a lot to cover. But like Diara said, like you said, Ian and I met in college. We like fell in love freshman year, dated the entire 4 years together. We took a break because our career paths were going in different directions, and it was at that time that he was diagnosed with cancer. He was living in China, I was living in Pittsburgh, and ironically, his diagnosis is what brought us back together. Because I think whether we were consciously aware of it or not, we were like, life is precious. Like we love this, we love each other. Let's do this. So from there, despite him having a cancer diagnosis, a terminal cancer diagnosis, we decided to get married. We decided to start a family. And then when I was pregnant with my second son, my son, and my daughter was 2 years old, is when we found out that the cancer had metastasized. It was uveal melanoma. And so we fought for about 15 months. And then in March 2019, just 20 4 days after my son Theo turned 1, Ian passed away in Hawaii. I can't remember, were you there at the time? I feel like it was such a blur.
I was in
Yeah.
LA at the time.
But yeah, just surrounded by family and friends and in one of his favorite places in the whole wide world, in front of the Mokaluas in Lani Kai, he passed away. And so in that then began just a whole new chapter of my life being completely turned upside down. Everything I knew about life and what I wanted and who I was had been completely shattered, and I turned to movement. Fitness was a huge piece in helping me cope with the grief. I started learning about grief. I started turning my pain into purpose. I started sharing my story on social media, connecting with other young widows because I didn't know any 32-year-old widows out there. But there were tons of them, and they were connecting with me, and I was connecting with them. And we built this beautiful relationship where I would share my story and heal by, writing about my experience. They would be witnessed by me, I'd be witnessed by them. And then this really beautiful thing happened is that it started, me being able to help other people gave new meaning to my loss. So this tragedy kind of turned into an opportunity for growth and new possibility and rethinking my life in ways that beyond my mind's capacity. And so I built this business called Move Through at the time, and the universe was just like, yes, Emily, like it just delivered me all these amazing opportunities, like TV appearances on Good Morning America, a clothing line opportunity, a book deal. And it's just like, yes, 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 yes. And it was, yeah, it was a really, really beautiful and awful time. It, it was beautiful and awful all at the same time. And just a couple years ago, I kind of took a pivot, a little break from being in the grief and loss community because I just felt like something within me was saying, you have more to offer. There's something bigger. Your message is bigger than this. And so I've been on a soul searching journey for about 18 months and another death rebirth portal of my own that has brought me into closer connection with who I am and my soul's purpose and what I believe I'm here to do. And I'm just coming out of that right now. So this timing is spot on.
Oh, there's so much within that I want to touch on. And the first piece, because I've heard you say these words, and I think this is there's there's a ton of lesson within it, and I think you have a lot of wisdom to share. You said that death is my medicine, and I'm so curious to hear like what that means to you and how it's been a teacher or a healer in your own life.
Yeah, I love this. And this is exactly the work that I'm doing now because it's not just physical death that can teach us so much, but it's also the metaphorical deaths that we go through in life that have potent medicine. But I'll speak to the physical, and that's just when someone who you love dies, it just wakes you up to your own mortality. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm 39 right now. I maybe have 40 to 60 years left on this planet. And it's like, I'm going to stop sweating the small stuff. I'm just going to be grateful for being here, right? So I feel like death awakens us to what truly matters in life. It cuts through the noise, through the shoulds, through the bullshit that we get so caught up in, and really brings us back into presence, into joy, into love and connection. So that was really like the first teaching that Ian's death taught me. And then the second piece is around death alchemizes. There's so many times where we outgrow a version of ourselves, or a role, a career, a relationship, and we resist the death. We resist the ending. So death teaches us that it's okay to let go. Because in the space of letting go and laying what is no longer aligned to rest, something new emerges. Death and rebirth are related. And then the third piece is really that death allows. We come into resistance with things that are out of our control in life, like maybe someone dumps us, we lose our job, a loved one dies, and we want to, again, resist. We want to fight with our reality. And death really invites us to accept what happens to us in life. and shift our response to those things that we cannot control and learn how to alchemize the worst thing into the best thing. And once you kind of do that, you just have this like sense of trust and faith that everything in your life will work out because you see the worst things that have happened to you and how you've walked yourself through them and how you're that much more resilient and strong and in alignment with your truth. And it's like, wow, I'm like unfuckwithable. I can do anything. It's just a matter of like how I relate to life. And that's just a choice.
Yeah, yeah, that reminds me so much of this idea of loosening your grip. And that's been something that has been somewhat of a challenge for me and one of my biggest teachings because it's all about surrender, right? And when you allow yourself to truly let go and surrender to what is happening without, as you said, resisting or trying to control the outcome, as time passes, as a little bit of time and space takes happens there, you recognize that that thing had to happen that way to create room for the right thing to walk on in. And if you had gripped so tightly to it and tried to control the outcome, you would likely miss that thing that is actually meant for you and quite possibly far more beautiful than you ever could imagined it would be. And so I just, yeah, it's been such a, it's not easy. You know, I say all of this being in like a person that's absolutely like still in a state of surrender and a reminder that I have to kind of like a mantra that I replay very regularly for myself. And though it's so much easier once you have a few examples to reference as, oh yeah, you know, for me, my divorce, I look back on that with so much gratitude now because I see that it had to happen that way in order to bring me here. I wouldn't be this version of myself that's so free, that doesn't care what other people think. You know, like, you know, I say that with, of course, I still care a little bit, like we're human, but not in the same, not with the same weight and context that I once did. And so then once you, again, like have a little bit of proof, it's a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And I feel like you touched on this a little bit, but I would love to hear your thoughts on if you believe that we have soul contracts, if, you know, there were maybe predestined, predetermined parts of our life or our spirit that our soul signed up for. We knew we were going to walk into this. And even through all of the struggle and all of the pain and all of the grief, we still said yes.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a so the way I look at any like belief in life is I kind of just feel like it all just is and we're all just trying to make sense of this big whopping thing of our of existence. It's like why are we here and why do we go through these things? And so I just for any listeners like I just invite you to like hold all this like so lightly because there's no one way. There's no truth, right? Like we get to decide what resonates for us. So, yeah, for me, I absolutely believe that like my soul chose this path and that, you know, when we come into this earth, we're dealt with, it gives us this like earth curriculum, right? For our soul to learn and evolve and become who we're meant to be here in this lifetime. And whether or not like Ian and I signed up for that in the beginning, like I guess I see it as like, you know, Disney Soul. Have you seen that movie?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
like I don't see us as like two souls talking and being like, "Hey, like, you know, we're gonna do this and let's go." Like, I see it more as like there's like energy and there's entanglement and there's like it's we're all like kind of like related in different ways. So yeah, there was probably some sort of like energetic thread, right? That he was like an old soul. He'd been here. He'd figured out his like lessons. He'd evolved into his highest self. And I still have a lot to learn. So yeah,
Yes.
I guess at some level it's like I do and I'm still in the inquiry.
Yeah, I think that was so beautifully articulated. And I think anytime we get so wrapped up in any of our beliefs or our identities, and again, grip too tightly on any of them as this is truth, and then life comes back around and slaps you in the face or humbles you. Exactly. It's like, hey, don't get too excited there because you still, as you said, like there's a lot to learn and there's more lessons to be had. So just how can we again surrender or soften into whatever is right in front of us? And even like within this, I know that you've talked about stripping away all of your masks. And this is
Hmm.
something that I absolutely have learned, sometimes the hard way, but it's been such a big, important teacher in my own life, just down to like the identities we carry, the
Hmm.
titles, the labels. Like our society is so, we emphasize so intensely labeling things. Oh, I have to put
Yeah.
a name to this. My husband, my wife, my partner, my spouse, my child, my this, that, my whatever your title is in your career. And once all of that, for me, I had hit my own version of rock bottom, the life that I had planned and the life that I knew, all of a sudden I woke up one day and I had burned it all to the ground.
Yeah.
And I believe that it had to take place that way for me specifically. It doesn't have to be that way for everyone, but for me, it had to evolve that way for me to really go inward and sit in the depths of the things that I had avoided, the darkness, the skeletons, the lies, the facade that I had built up over time, the masks, to
Hmm.
really understand, okay, who am I beneath all of this stuff? Who did I come here to be? How do I want to rebuild now that I've gone through this death rebirth? And I think for anybody that resonates with that, where you're in the thick of it right now, you're in the eye of the storm, as challenging as it is such an incredible opportunity because there's only up from there. And again, I do believe that it's exactly where you're supposed to be. And the other side has the potential to be way more real and honest and true and magnetic than anything that
Yeah.
has existed in the past. So I would love to hear just some of your own personal experience with
Yeah.
stripping away some of those masks.
Hell yeah, I resonate with that deeply. And that's why I just launched a new program called Thresholds. And it's like, I believe that these threshold moments, these losses, these moments that appear like devastating on the surface are actually the ones that guide us into our truth. Because when you're in those like knees on the ground moments where everything about your life has unraveled, all of the rules that you thought would make you happy, like the white picket fence and the home and the right, it's like that's no longer available. Okay, so how do I find joy now? I'm no longer a wife. I'm no longer, even my identity as a mom had to shift as well, because solo parenting, is so different than parenting with a partner, right? So yeah, like once you're stripped away of all of these attachments, is truly what they are. These roles and these attachments to how we think, what we think we need in order to feel a certain way. And we're always grasping for that outside of ourselves. But when it's all gone, it's like you're not left with any other choice but to access that from within yourself. It's like, and we make mistakes along the way. Like I definitely was in a space of like, okay, I like remember this, like being like, all right, well, Ian died, and it's fine. I'm just gonna like find someone else to like love and create a family with, and it'll all be good. And like I started dating like 4 months after he died, which like surprised me at the time. It still surprises me now, but like my mind just like took me to that space. It was like, how can I fix this?
Mm.
And so again, by searching outside of myself. And so it's taken years to get back to this space of everything that I'm searching for outside of myself is actually within me. And I mean, I'm meeting that again at a new level, layer right now around like my self-worth and how that's all tied into my business.
Mm.
So yeah, I absolutely believe that these knees on the ground moments where you're stripped bare is where you actually understand that there is something as an essential self, and there's a moment of liberation, because you start to learn about yourself, free of the shoulds, free of the conditioning, free of what your mom told you that you should do, or what society thinks you should behave, right? And a lot of the tools that I used during this time were things like the Enneagram and astrology and human design, just because for the first time I was understanding who I was or meeting myself at this whole new layer, and I didn't have a vocabulary, I didn't have a language for it. And so these tools were like a little mirror back to me to that I could see myself in. So So yeah, that's just a little cliff notes of kind of that process.
Yeah, and I found that sometimes, especially when you're in a state of pain, grief, and that can look like anything really, you're, as you said, you're searching, you're reaching, you're looking for answers, you're looking for signs, and sometimes we just need that mirror to remind us of who we are. And for me,
Yeah.
same. Human design, astrology have been huge teachers for me, just in the reminder of this is who you are. Pay, and you don't
Yeah.
have to take it word for word. Read whatever you're reading or whatever you're holding as what feels true to me in my body.
Right.
Does this
Yeah.
resonate? And then walk
I
away
love that.
with those pieces. And you touched a little bit on self-worth, and I've heard you mention that that's been one of your biggest struggles and core wounds, and that's mine as well, the wound of not enoughness.
Hmm.
And I've mentioned before that growing up in Hawaii was had so many incredible beautiful moments, and it also created quite a bit of uncertainty for me, and almost like this striving to belong in a place that I never felt fully welcomed, and that inside created as a young child this sensation, because it's a innate desire, especially for a child, that sensation of belonging. And
Totally.
I had no awareness of it until I became a mom, that was something so deep inside of me, that I was constantly striving for love. And
Yeah.
my, unconscious pattern was I have to be perfect to be loved. So I was wearing a lot of masks. I was doing all of the things I thought I needed to do. Again, all of the shoulds. And then I woke up one day and didn't recognize myself in the mirror. And it took a lot of internal work and sitting with myself and questioning, and just pausing and slowing down to
Yeah.
recognize that, first of all, just having the awareness, the conscious awareness that exists inside of me, and not trying to shame myself for it or change it, just
Right.
to love on that part of myself. And I know that this is so common, especially for women. So I would love to hear what some of like your own journey within that has looked like, and maybe how you've healed. Yeah, we never fully arrive in that sense. I believe it's a constant,
Yeah.
um, it's something that I'll always be, working on or focused on, but I would love to hear from you what some of that has looked like on your end.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's kind of funny now that what's coming through for me as you say that, and going back to the question around the soul contract, is Ian had always told me when he was alive, he was like, Emily, you should quit your job and just become an entrepreneur because you care so much and you're such a hard worker. Like you could just do what you're doing for a boss and do it for yourself. So after he died, I remembered that lesson. And that's kind of why I started. It gave me the courage to start move through because it felt like I'm like connecting to Ian in some way. Like this is the guidance that he would give me. So the reason I say that is because I got a lot of success from my business early on. It all just like happened, and it wasn't. This isn't an either or. This is a both and, right? While it was beautiful and healing and deeply meaningful, at the same time, it also fed that part of me that needed the spotlight, that wanted to be validated and praised and loved in order to feel like she was enough. And so through therapy, because I would notice, like, I was like, man, I'm hustling, like, I'm like killing myself to make this work, and I love it. Right? That's why these things are complex. It's not just like obvious, right? The pattern. It's like a part of me does really love it and feels really energized and excited about it. But I'm also like missing out on time with my family and my kids. And I know because my husband died that that's actually what truly matters. So, like, these two parts of myself were at odds, pivoted against each other. So as I got to know this part that was just like hustling and putting so much pressure, I uncovered this wound of unworthiness. And growing up in my family, kind of the message was from my dad. And what I want to like disclaim here is like it's not what happens to us; it's what we make it mean. So my dad was encouraging me, saying like, you've been given all of this opportunity, you can do anything that you want in your life, like I can get you, and you can get to an Ivy League education, I can fund it, like literally I'm like, the world is at your fingertips. Like he was just trying to encourage me, but I internalized that as like, I need to do this in order to, firstborn child, to feel loved, to feel worthy. Like I had this like pleaser kind of like, I need to achieve, do, perform, succeed in order to be enough, in order to be loved. That's the belief that was formed at that subconscious level. And so, so yeah, once I brought awareness to that, what that's looked like for me is noticing what lack feels like in my body, what love feels like in my body, also noticing what ego feels like, and also what soul. So I have like a name for my ego, and she's like, it's Brittany, bitch. Like, you better work, bitch. Like, that's my ego. And then I have my soul.
That's so good. Everyone needs to name their ego. That's powerful.
Yeah. And then my soul her name is Grace Rose. And she's just like super loving, like cozy, like this like warm hug. And she just like does, like, she permeates love and like femininity and just like flow. And so I can feel that because like you said, it's like a constant process, right? Because I know I am meant for the spotlight. Like after doing all of the like 6'2", exemplary human, like Venus in my midhaven, I'm sorry, Leo in my midhaven and my Venus, like it's like the dreams that I have are for me. And on the other side of that is like needing it. So how do I, desire, like go after my desires and my dreams from a place of love and not from lack? And so it's this constant just like tuning in, like you said, getting quiet. And also when I notice that I've crossed into the hustle and into the perfectionism, that's another sign, right? Like looking at all my emails and making sure that everything looks so perfect on social media, that really all that's doing, it's a subconscious way of me avoiding failure. Because if I fail, my business fails, then I am a failure too. So the way I alchemize that then is, well, you're already enough. I love myself regardless of the outcome, right? And then I create from there. And it's taken me like, Deara, I tried to record a podcast about this like literally this week, and I was trying to like just talk about what I shared with you, and I couldn't. My entire channel closed. And it was like literally the universe was like, nope, you're not ready. You haven't embodied this. And it was so perfect because I just stopped and I cried and I held myself and I was like, I love me. You are enough. Like I just reparented that little girl who, created this belief about herself. And I just took the rest of the day off to just be in my feelings. And then the next day I was like, okay, I'm ready. Back on board.
Yes, gosh, so many thoughts. And what is dominantly rising up for me right now is that deep connection to your intuition. And I am such a believer that us as women, the feminine, our superpower is the deep connection to our intuition. And though there is so much external noise out there, there are so many distractions, there are so many, whatever your core wound is, whether you're a perfectionist like you and I, or you really strict parents, or there's just, you naturally put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform and achieve, like whatever the thing is, there is going to be resistance towards connecting, slowing down, and dropping into your intuition. And
Totally.
how can you allow that to exist without the need to force it? And that's such a beautiful example of the universe being like, nope, take a pause. You're meant to feel, you're meant to go through these emotions, not quite yet. And giving yourself the permission to listen to that voice. Because for so many of us, so many women that I work with, a huge part of my voice for them is just continually giving them permission. And for whatever that is, permission to be angry, permission to be sad, permission to take up space. And I think just that constant reminder of like, your intuition is always going to be there. She's present, but are you allowing her the time and space that's required for the thing that is asking to be heard right now? And so many of us are not. And the kind of the place that I want to go with this, because I know that you also, were in a long-term relationship after Ian passed away, and I've been single now for 2.5 years, and there's been so much. While I fully knew that I needed this time of solitude for myself because I had been in a relationship since I was 15. So I absolutely recognized that this was a important time in my life. And though there is so much outside noise of, are you going to have more children? Do you want to get married again? Are you dating? There's constant questioning around that, while also there's just the natural desires that exist within us of wanting to be sexual and be with a partner and like all of those things. And I also know that like I needed that alone time to really find myself again outside of another human giving me the things that like would pour into maybe that ego part of myself that I would have missed a lot, and I wouldn't have necessarily become so anchored and unwavering in who I am today if I had walked into a relationship at that time. But again, like everybody's path is so different. And so I would just love to hear from you, like what that experience taught you, especially as like a single mom, and also like what you've walked away, because I'm sure you've walked away with so many lessons and you've had so much time, in the past however many months to process and reflect. So because I know that there's so many pieces within your story that are so relatable for women going through or walking through something very similar to your experience. So please like share what that has looked like for you.
Yeah, the dating experience, man, it's been so hard.
Yeah,
Like, could write
let's
like
just
a
laugh
whole
at it
book
for a
on this
moment.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think first of all, I just want to say I totally agree with you. I know what happened to me, and again, like let's just release any shame around the mistakes that we made. If you're listening to this and then like you're like, "Oh, I'm doing that too." Like we've all been there, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
like,
I could
so
easily
yeah.
like we can pause. I could easily share so many of the mistakes that I've made thinking like, "Oh, I'm so healed, I'm so aware, I'm so high conscious." There have been so many mistakes. So yes. Yes to releasing shame and judgment. We are all perfectly imperfect humans here.
Hell yes, hell yes. So yeah, I mean, early on, I did jump into dating because I had this fix it energy. Like my whole life, it's been like you can fix things, right? Like what? There's something that I can't that like Ian died, like I can't, And so that was even just like a huge learning. But anyways, it was like fill the void, fix it, make it better. So there was that energy kind of going on. And I was also just incredibly lonely. Like I just was like you said, like I want intimacy, I want connection, I want to put on a cute dress and have someone like, flirt with me and take care of me and like all the things. So I got into a relationship early on, and I kind of told like I really liked this guy, and I was like, oh my God, this is it, this is my ticket out of like devastation. And he dumped me via text message like right before my first Christmas without my husband, and I was again like devastated. But what was so beautiful, and I didn't see it at the time, right, is like it was just like he was a band-aid, total band-aid. And what he did was breaking up with me ripped off the band-aid, and it forced me to address the core wound that was beneath the surface, which was really grieving my husband's death and not allowing myself to fix it with anything. I had to move through it on my own. So after that, I had like another like relationship, and I think I was kind of like one foot in, one foot out the whole time. I just feel like I kind of knew it wasn't going anywhere, but it was probably my intuition, honestly, saying like this isn't really it, but you're kind of like lonely and it's nice to have this person in your life. And we ended that. But then the longer relationship that I was just in, we dated for 3 years and I had done some work on myself. So I thought that I was like, okay, I'm pretty solid. I had gotten clear around what I'm looking for. Like I did like all my measures of compatibility and I had really like felt that I was ready to like call this next person into my life. Um, and so we dated for a year and a half, and I always felt this like resistance in my heart. And I would talk about it in therapy. But what ended up happening is instead of seeing the resistance as just like this person's a no for you, I kind of created a story and gaslit myself and said, this is probably just your trauma.
Mm.
Like this is probably just, a heart wall that's not allowing in this person because if you fall in love again, you could also lose them. So it's just like pain. So it's just like very much like in my head, like creating these stories around what this somatic sensation could be. And so I literally, and I was very vocal about this in my relationship. Like I told him, I was like, hey, like, I'm not so sure, da 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 da. But he, instead of listening to my own voice, I listened to his because he was like this strong, assertive male. He's like, let's move in together. You're just afraid. It's okay. Like, let's do this. It's going to be great. And so I just went with it because I was like, you're right. Like, everything looks good on paper. This is probably just my trauma and it's fine. And that's what trauma does. It breaks intuition with ourselves because traumatic events rock you to the core. So it's hard, really hard to trust yourself again after a trauma. And so, after moving in together and blending families, it'd been about a year in the house, I was just like, it's not going away. It's still here. And I started kind of like working more with more like somatic tools and tuning into my human design. And I'm a sacral generator, which is like, if it's a yes, it's like a fuck yes. If it's a no, it's a pretty clear no. And if it's a maybe, it's usually a no. So I was like, oh my God, like what if the resistance isn't my trauma and it's just my intuition? And so I started playing with that question instead. And I had this moment where, I don't know. I think it was a sign. I walked into a spider web one day when I was thinking like about leaving my relationship, and it made me think like weaver, like weaver of destiny. Like this is a choice point for you that's going to weave your fate. And I just thought, I have worked so hard on like myself, on my joy, on my vitality, that that was it. That was it. I was like, it was also like wondering, thinking like I've worked so hard on myself. I want the fuck yes. And I kind of had this moment when I hit that spider web. It was like, if I believe that my fuck yes is out there, that my soulmate is out there, then he will be. But if I don't, if I just believe that, this is all I got and I'm just going to settle, then that's the reality that I'm going to create.
Mm.
Right? Like, and that's what happens. That lesson translates across all planes of life. Like, if you believe that your dead end job is all you've got and this is all you're capable of, then that's the reality that you're going to manifest. If you believe that you can find something soul aligned and make money and impact thousands of people, then that's this narrative that we're going to create for ourselves. So I think after that moment, I shortly was like, I got to end this. And I did. And it was hard because, again, as a woman, I think we've conditioned to keep everybody else happy at the cost of keeping ourselves happy. And I was so worried about like offending him, hurting him after we had literally got a home together, decorated it. I was worried about my kids and breaking them up again. But I just, I realized that it's not my responsibility to hold everybody else's emotions. It's my responsibility to choose me. And how other people respond is on them, right? Especially if it's coming from a place of love and not from manipulation. So I ended it, and I felt so relieved. I felt expansion. I was like, yes, this is it. Because guess what? You still have work to do. And I did. I do have, it's been a year now since I broke up with him. What that chapter taught me was all about trusting myself. it was bringing me back into intuition. So I don't see it as a failure. I see it as another initiation that brought me closer to my truth and to like, how do I listen? How do I trust myself? Because I do know. And like, Dira, I know that my soulmate is out there. I am manifesting him like he has an accent. I'm just putting it out there on the podcast. And
Yes,
like,
he does.
like,
Yes, he does.
and yeah, and it's like, because I just feel so whole in myself right now. Like, I don't need him. I don't need him. And I've even thought, do I even want to put this out there? Because my life is really fucking epic right now. But like, I'm also a Libra rising, and I'm like, yeah, I know I want that. I want that in my life. Whether it comes to me now, in a year, in 5 years, I'm going to let the universe decide. But that's been my
Hmm.
journey.
Oh, I'm getting emotional uh, as you're saying all of this because it just so deeply resonates for me, and I know that it so deeply resonates with so many other women as well because that story that we hold of I'm just going to make sure that everybody else is happy and fulfilled and I'm just going to these feelings and these thoughts, oh, I'm just going to push those down. I'm going to brush those under the rug. I'm going to numb, I'm going to avoid, I'm going to distract, I'm going to escape, I'm going to abandon myself. We've been taught that again and again and again,
So,
so much so that when we start speaking up and using our voice, we're shamed for it. I'm sure you've felt some of that.
yeah.
I've felt it to the extreme. And again, like I've made some mistakes. I've caused some pain for people. And though, the more that I stand and own up to my past and the behaviors and the choices that I made from a place of responsibility and ownership and truth, though, it's like
Yeah.
this is me and I'm just here to love. And yes, this may disappoint you, this may be a little bit shocking to you, you may not like this version of me. I have felt that one big time, and that's not on me. This is who I came here to be. So for anybody that's experiencing that at any level, I know how fucking hard it is. I know how scary, I know how completely crippling in
Yeah.
fear it may, because we attach that to like I will be exiled from the tribe. I
Yep.
will not be loved. I will actually die because back in the day you would have. Like we actually would have died. We would have been burned at the stake or we would have
Well,
been, again, exiled from the tribe and we wouldn't have made it. But now we're living in a different time. And the scariest thing may just be the thing that will set you free. So
yeah.
I, and I know that you've said that so many people, and I relate to this as well, that we exist without living fully. And we become this watered down version of ourselves and we shrink and we abandon those wants, needs, desires because we're too afraid that will be too much if we stand tall in all of it. So I would just love to hear how you've stepped into like fully embodying life and what some of that journey has like looked and felt like for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be really honest, at least in terms of like just like standing in who I am. That hasn't been as big of a pattern for me. I have an Aquarius moon, so kind of being like the weirdo and the rebel, like I kind of get off on that like naturally. But like it's all like the more like subtle subconscious ways around like hurting people I love and making myself like responsible for that, and also just not ever really like knowing myself to begin in the first place. Like, I'm sorry, I'm bringing in a lot of astrology because I know that you know, and I'm hoping some of your listeners know too. But like Libra rising, Libra is like kind of the chameleon. They can get along with a lot of a lot of different people and situations. And so, I kind of have been a shapeshifter, and I'm welcomed in a lot of different places. But like, it's been at the cost of knowing myself. And so, I would say that the biggest shift for me, and it's been recent, and because I've gone on this deep soul searching journey, over the course of the 18 months, is really figuring out who the fuck I am and knowing what I stand for. And that has been like the key to me standing in my power, you know, releasing hate and negative comments when people project onto me, essentially on social media or in other parts of life, and making decisions that that to other people seem crazy, but to me, I'm like, they're aligned. Like, I'm a dreamer. I have big dreams. But like this, I've been on a journey investing tons of money in my healing and in my growth, and my bank account, my business numbers have nothing to show for that right now. So, I'll be like, oh my God, my dad, my brother probably think that I'm crazy. But when I really notice that, I'm like, oh, that's not my dad or my brother. That's me. That's me judging me. you know? So it's just been more in those like sneaky subconscious ways. But I'd say, yeah, the connection to myself, knowing who I am, what I stand for, and where I'm going has really helped me let go of other people's opinions, let go of the noise, and just put one foot in front of the other and stand in my truth.
Yeah, yeah. That piece is so important. And the thing that I really just want to emphasize is this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
What you and I are referring to, astrology or even human design, I'm a Leo stellium, so I'm a triple Leo. And that
Ooh.
alone, it's a lot. It's a lot of Leo over here. But that alone, there were parts of myself that I used to shame, that I used to, even though I'm like, I want to be in the spotlight. I'm way up here. Is anyone watching? Like, there's so much of that that I just naturally exist in. But then other people's projections would, especially in Hawaii, because of the, Asian culture here, there, which is a very humble, community. There's a lot of energy around like, don't stand too tall, make sure that you kind of like blend in. But I never naturally always wanted to stand out. And I felt different inside, but I
Yeah.
really didn't know how to go about um, acting and behaving in that way, because it was such an internal tug and pull of this is me, but it's not safe to be me. So I better
Totally.
just kind of like become this like just less version of myself. And over time, through all of this work that I've done, invest pouring same here, lots of time, energy, and money into this part of myself. I now, and I think, and I just again like want to emphasize this for both of us, for anybody that's listening, like it does take time. If you're just starting to dip your toes in this stuff, I used to say like 10 years ago that I was like so high conscious and so aware and so awake, but like I was listening to podcasts, I was listening to books, like that was like the extent of it. And that's okay. It's
Totally.
like it's an evolution, and this is your own journey, and this is your own unique path and experience. So I just always tell somebody like, whatever you feel that like pull towards, like lean into that. And if you see
Hmm.
somebody shining that you relate to, I think this is why you and I have built these beautiful communities, because we see ourselves reflected in other people. And that's when we again feel that deep permission slip of, oh, she did it, so maybe I can do it too. And even if it's just
Right.
a little whisper at first, use that, lean into that,
Totally.
believe that.
Yeah, I love that. And you've got it. Like, that's the thing, is it does start with a whisper, just a little like peak of curiosity. Like, I remember people would ask me, or it would go both ways. I'd ask myself, well, what do I want after Ian died? Because it was like I was looking at this blank canvas of my life ahead. I was like, I don't know what I want. I have no freaking idea, and I don't even know where to start. And I've talked to other widows who have felt the same. Probably same with. I mean, does that resonate with you? It's like I don't
Yes.
know. Everything I thought I wanted is gone, and so now I have no idea. But it started out with just like the curiosities. What are the things that I'm interested in? What's slightly bringing me joy? And then with time, like just recently, I went to Bali with my kids, and I came back and I was like, wow, like I have a fire in my belly about international travel and how like I want to make that a huge part of our life. Like I want that, and it felt so good to be anchored in that for, this has been 6 years. And also to be anchored in like the vision for my business and what I'm trying to create there from a place of love. So it does take time, and the work is never done, right? it's like we're cyclical beings. We have this belief that it's going to be this like straight and narrow trajectory because that's kind of what we've been taught, but it's not. And the feminine is a cycle. We have monthly cycles and we just continue to cycle down. Mother Earth is a cycle. Spring, summer, fall, winter, right? We go through those same death rebirth cycles ourselves. So, yeah, like every chapter, there's like, it's kind of, if you think of the threshold journey, it's like there's this moment of like, do I choose this? Or does life thrust me over it into this void of what was and into what will be? And that void can be short. It can be really long. This one I was in has been about 18 months, and I feel like I'm on like the rebirth. Like I feel like I'm like crowning right now. This like new body of work. Sorry, that was a strong visual. And then it's like you're like in this like period of like, oh my God, like I feel so great and expanded and life is going amazing. And then it's like, what's the next initiation gonna be?
Totally. Totally. And that's such an important mindset, though, because I think, the way that we're raised is we achieve these monumental milestones. You graduate high school and then you go to college and then you find a man and you get married and you have children. And it's like all of these arrival moments. And then, and I'll speak from my own experience, you arrive and it's like, oh, who am I or what's next? Or am I empty and lost now that I don't have this new arrival that's coming my way? And what do I do with myself? I don't know. As you said, like, I have no idea where to begin. And that goes against everything especially for women who we are innately, while being attached to the moon and Mother Nature, being in seasons. And so once you can, again, loosen your grip and surrender and allow those seasons to unfold the way that they do, and just the knowing that, yeah, you may be feel on top of the world right now. You may feel like you got it all figured out, but hey, guess what? Next week, when you're in the luteal phase, you may be questioning your existence. So like,
So
stay
true.
humble as much as you can, and just allow the whatever is calling you forward for that to be there, the highs and the lows. The something I remind myself constantly is just this too shall pass. Even the good, like this good moment isn't always going to be here. So how can I drop in and sink into it and experience it, embody it as much as I possibly can right now in this moment, find gratitude, pour love into the people I care about most, so that when it does pass by and I'm in maybe a low, I know that I'm not going to be there forever, and that this is also going to pass.
Yeah. And that's another lesson of death is impermanence. Nothing is forever. And, just one more thing. Sorry. Just connecting to the earth in those moments and like seeing like your own growth and death and rebirth, right? Emanated in nature. And you look at the frequency of fall and of winter and like going inward and just like that, like contraction, right? The death. And then you can feel it energetically in the spring. Like it's just so innately built into our existence and who we are. And to resist it is to resist growth. And if we are not growing, we are dying.
Yes, yes. Okay. As like one kind of closing piece of wisdom that I would love for you to share, if because I know there are so many people out there listening that are walking through something challenging and hard right now, whether that's a loss, whether that's a death, whether that's a transition, a new beginning, whatever the thing is. And you have certainly walked through some incredibly, beautifully painful, excruciating deaths in your life. So I would love to hear from you if you could go back and speak to that younger version of yourself, the woman who had just become a widow and a single mom. What would you say to her?
I would say, I know that well, this is a tough one. Because it's like when you're in it, you're just like, I don't want to hear anything. It's like, this is just awful. So, what I would say, I would
Yeah.
validate that. And I would say,
Yeah.
I know this is horrible. It sucks. And I'm here to sit in it with you through the pain, through the darkness, through the devastation. I'm here to fall apart with you. And I'm also here to hold the hope because I trust, I believe that everything in our life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And if you can't be with that inquiry right now, that's okay. I'm going to hold it for you. And when you're ready, we're going to rewrite your next chapter. Something to the extent of that.
Emily, you're making me emotional. This is one of my favorite conversations by far. I'm so grateful for you. You're such a bright light and just incredible human and spirit. And I feel really, really grateful to be doing this with you. And so please share with everybody, where can people find you? What's the best place? Maybe even what you have coming up.
Oh, thank you. Yes, dear. This has been awesome. And I can't wait to have you on my podcast too. It's going to be so great. I feel like we're, divinely, our paths have crossed in a divine way as well. So you guys can find me on Instagram. I am Emily Bingham, or on TikTok, as well as my website, which I'm sure will be somewhere in the show notes. I am doing a one-to-one mentorship called Thresholds, which is all about navigating life's most pivotal moments: divorce, death, career change, any major event that requires kind of full death and rebirth. And I'll be launching another new program called YOLO soon, which is going to be a challenge to live your life like it's your last. It'll be a year-long challenge, and I'll be launching that shortly. And I'm really excited about that one.
Wow, you are like a marketing creative genius. I love both of those. Even just like the names and titles alone. I know we talked about like not having titles, but it is powerful when you can like connect and resonate with something that feels true for you. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because
Thank you.
I'm like, yes, me. So everybody, please go out and find Emily, connect with her, send her a message, tell her whatever resonated with you in this conversation, because this is what it's all about at the end of the day: human connection. It's why I'm here. I know it's why you're here. It's why we keep showing
Yeah.
up and doing what we're doing. So thank you so much. I have so much love for you, and just even the sadness that brought our souls to this moment right here, and I could easily lose it right now thinking about Ian. Whew, I'm just super grateful for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Aw.
yeah, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you so much, Deara. I feel the same. And I know that Ian is here with us
Mm.
energetically, and so fucking proud of both of us. So thank you.